Bach's Chorale BWV 12.7 is so great for so many things in teaching music theory at the college level. It has great cadences, great non-chord tones, use of both standard connection methods that we've been working with in the first half of second term, and then modifications of them as well. It's got a sequence. It's great for second year things that are kicking off with secondary dominance and things like that. When I did my first and original analysis just recently, just for fun, it's like it has so much stuff. The page got filled with so many different aspects that it's not really usable, and I'm not going to do all of them here, otherwise we just end up with a mess. But let's look at cadences, and then I want to point out some things that have to do with voice leading, and then we'll do a harmonic analysis in the next video on this. But a little bit of harmonic analysis will help us because we need to know the keys we're in. B flat major chord, B flat major chord. Clearly we're in B flat major, right? And our cadence right here is, and I'm not gonna include the trumpet / oboe obligato line too much. There's a couple places I want to point out some things. When you hear this, it does sound like an extra thing. It's not that it doesn't interact with the chorale parts, but it's not one of the group. It doesn't do everything there. Anyhow, this is a B flat chord right here, so that's my 1 chord. And here's my 5 chord, F, F, A, E flat. There's my 7. So this is a 5, 7, and this is an IAC because although it's root to root and it's a real 5 chord, we end up on the 3rd of the chord here. It's a great way for us to, like a lot of times Bach will change key to the dominant or the relative major or something and then come back with 2 perfect authentic cadences, and it still gives us a sense of forward movement because we've changed key and then we come back. In this case, he's going to stay in B flat the whole time, but he'll do, it's close to what we can call a period structure with a less conclusive and then more conclusive cadence, although for my ears, stopping on these fermatas always makes these things feel like they're broken apart from each other. So if we got rid of the fermata and played through the whole thing, you'd hear like that as what would call that a contrasting symmetrical period, because over here we have a 1 chord again, still B flat major, and here's my F. This note is the A. It's resolving off to a suspension, F, A. See, this is my 5 chord here, and this is a perfect authentic cadence. I still hear these things as separate statements. I mean, they're connected, but not in the same way a classical period structure is, okay? So that's our first 2 cadences. We have an extended passage through here, which we'll talk about why that is in a minute. Here's my cadence right there. And if you look, I've got an F chord right here. And you could say, is it a half cadence? And the answer is no, I don't think so. We have the C major chord here, right? And then another C major chord here. Again, we have that suspension resolving down. It's modulated to the key of the dominant, and this is another PAC right there. This is 5 and 1. Just remember we're in F, okay? Right there. And then at the end, we have a 1 chord, and then a F, and then F, and an A, and A is right there after the suspension, and C. This is my 5 chord there, and we have a PAC back in B flat, as we should at the end of the chorale. So that's helpful. We're going to talk about not chords yet, except where we need it for specifics. I want to talk about part writing. We were going to look at a few places where there's, mixed in all these inversions and things like that, and free part writing. There's ample use of all the different kinds of connection methods that we've learned about root position and doubled root part writing, like right from the beginning here. Let's take a look at this. It's the same chord, okay? And oh heck, we can throw in here that it's a 1 chord. That's fine. Going to a 1 chord, both in root position, root, root, 3rd, 5th. And this here moves up, moves up, moves up. I know this moves up, but it's just an octave jump, so it's like it stays the same. This is what we called move with soprano, right? All the voices move in the same direction as the soprano, except the bass stays on the same pitch. It does rise the octave, but it could have stayed down and it would have been fine. So there's connection method that we're used to right off the beginning, okay? And then from here, I think I'm going to go back and forth between colors so we just don't get confused visually. If we look at from here to here, this is really interesting. So here's my B flat chord again, B flat, D and F. And here's another B flat chord, B flat, D and F. And we're going to just exclude these from view for a minute and show you what he's done here. He's gone, and the soprano goes from B flat to D, and the tenor goes from D to B flat, and the alto and the bass, don't worry about this right here, it stays the same. This is contrary motion voice exchange. Okay, so we have those right off the bat, 2 of our mainstays of connection methods. And then here you can see that he has continued to fill in the contrary motion swapping of pitches, the voice exchange, with other notes there. And then he's using free inside there. Okay, that's cool. Let's look at our cadence right here. So here's our cadence right here, like this, okay? And we're going down a 5th, so root to root. And then if you look, this should be an F held over here because of the dot, and just ignore the 7th for right now. Everything moves in the same direction as the soprano to the next chord tones, B flat, F, and D. So this is what we call not common tone connection method, right? Just using that there. And that's actually going to inform how we do the rest of this piece of music, the cadences. I'm going to just jump to these other cadences here because I think they're really interesting. I guess I can go back to red. I didn't need to stay there. It's just because they're overlapping. Let's take a look right here. So the first cadence at the beginning is not common tone, where the common tone doesn't hold over, right? That would have been the F. Instead, they all come down with the same direction as the soprano. The bass could have gone up, didn't matter there, but the upper voice is like that, right? And if we look here at the end, we have root to root, and then again, don't worry about this note here because that's the chord tone right there, right? So comes down, comes down, comes down, and we have not common tone again. Connection method right there. And so we frame up our first phrase and our last phrase with the same things. And you might say that's coincidence, but the other 2 cadences don't write formulaically. They almost do, but then they break it. So if we look here, and this is not a connection method, there's some more here we'll talk about, but if we look here, right, you see it goes root to root, common tone holds over, right? Sorry, not common tone. T goes to do, common tone holds over, and this comes down in the opposite direction. Now, if we were doing common tone would hold over, root to root, and then the other 2 voices would move in the same direction by step to fill out the chord. That doesn't happen. Like normally A would go to B and C would go to D, and that would give us our B flat, D and F, but it doesn't. This comes down. The result here is that we get a chord, so it's not any of the things. We get a no 3rd chord here. And first year students learn that chords should generally have a 3rd in them, a root and a 3rd. If you have to have an incomplete chord, at least have those notes in triads. It doesn't have it. In fact, it purposefully, he's going out of his way to give us a no 3rd chord. And you have to ask yourself why. And I think the answer is aesthetically, he likes the sound, but he's also telling us there's more to come. So even though it's a perfect authentic cadence, it's an incomplete chord here. It's a no third chord. And so it's a way of Bach communicating to us sonically that there's still more to come, right? So first, imperfect authentic cadence, but using non-common tone connection method, right? But it gives us a complete chord here. And at the end, he's going to frame that up and say, look, we're done, right? And it gives us a perfect authentic cadence version of this. Here, although we have a PAC, we get no third. It's going to make it sound hollow and clarion. I don't mean hollow in a bad way. I mean really quite fantastic. But it is a way of sonically saying, hey, you know, we might not be done here. Is that allowed? It clearly is. At cadences, we sometimes drop notes. In fact, some cadences in 2- and 3-part pieces will just have only the roots of the chord there. It's understood what's implied there. So what's cool about this, I'm just going to get into this. Here's my suspension right here. This is held over from here and then goes down. This is a 4-3 suspension. And so the 5 chord, from an aesthetic point of view, doesn't arrive all intact. It starts with the suspension and it comes down there. It sounds really great. Let me play this, maybe from here. This is the 2 chord right there. And so we have, have this. And then this sticks out as the suspension comes down here, and we expect it to go to a nice chord, but then hollow. It's very simple sounding because it doesn't have that reassuring third in the middle. Just for contrast, look at the one at the end where the common tone doesn't hold over, right? And T doesn't go up to do. It has an irregular or free resolution down. So it's exactly the same, but this one grabs that third. So I'll play this again, and then I'm going to play this one, and you'll hear that note stick out there, and it warms it and makes it much brighter, more complete. So here we are again. We get this and no third, right? Nice and open like that. Here we get the third. It's a little different because this is down below. That's even another way to make it bigger. It's really hard to reach this. And then you get the third in there in the middle. Right there, right? So this is his way of saying not going to happen. And by the way, here's another 4-3 suspension. This is his thing, this chorale. Guess what's going to happen over here? Well, we're in the key of an F, right? But there's my 1 chord, and here's my 4-3 suspension right there, right? And if you look, it goes root to root, suspension, T goes up, common tone holds over. This should have stepped up as well. It did not. It comes down. And again, we have a no third chord there. And so the approach is the same. We get this coming in and then holding over and making a 4-3 suspension, just like here. It's just in a different key, right? And so like from here, it's still a, right, it's a 2-6 chord. It's literally the same thing as that, just transposed down in the other key. And so we get this, where are we there? There we are. And then we, get this, and then no third again, right? So it's a great economy and reuse of the motive. Like he disallows you from hearing the third immediately on the 5 chord here and here, and even here, and then he says no third here and no third there. And finally at the end, because happy ending gets the third, right? But they're not connection methods because of that. They break those rules. I for my students in the theory class, I want you to pay attention. Like the rule says that a chord should have a root and a third. There's reasons why you wouldn't. In typical writing, though, you do want that. But Bach has engineered a beautiful and very subtle way of saying no, because I'm pushing us forwards, right? This is very sublime, and then we get this rich ending there, okay? I'm just going to get a couple more connection methods here so you can see, like from here at the fermata to here, okay? So this is my 1 chord, and this is a 4 chord right there. It's my E flat chord, and this is really interesting, root to root. Common tone holds over, moves by step in the in the direction up or down, and this is the third of the chord leaping to the third of the other chord. This is tertian leap, and it's like he's making a clinic of all of these things for us to see, right? Okay, nice. And then I'll switch pens again. From here to here, okay, if you ignore that note right there, we have, this is going up to my 5 chord right there. We're going step up, right? And everything moves opposite the bass step. This comes down, that comes down, that comes down. So this is classic move opposite the bass step connection method right there, okay? Yeah, while we're here, let's just talk about this. This tertian leap is executed in a way that most students would lose points on, because we'd say check your ranges and check your spacing, because tertian leap can sometimes do that. Tertian leap going up like this makes a giant gap here of a 1/10. Now, I have 2 things to say about that. One is it's fine. Don't worry about it. It happens here. You get a spacing error and you get a spacing error there, but it's accommodating the lines, and I think it's fine. Also, it seems like, I know we weren't going to talk too much about this, but this would insert itself right there and sort of fix the spacing. It doesn't here, but I feel like when Bach is launching the new line, because he's going to do this same thing again later over here where there's another spacing error, this will slot in at the beginning and fix that. However, on the next note, it jumps up to the soprano line, and so that spacing error and that spacing error is not fixed in the same way. But I think it's like, as long as it says, okay, we stabilized, and now let's keep going, that it's fine. Apparently it doesn't he looks at it and goes like, it's okay. When you write music, instead of just write academic things, don't be afraid if you like, I like it, it makes sense to me. You don't have to justify. If the sound is good, the sound is good, right? Okay, so we went from here 4 to 5, right? And that seems pretty good. I just point out a couple other spots as well. Right here, right? This is B flat D, B flat F, common tone, step up, step up. This is common tone connection method. Yay, Bach, for doing all these things for us. And then over here, we have a step up in the bass. Now, not all step ups are equal. These are root position chords. This is a B flat chord right here, and this is a C chord right there. It's C major because we've changed key, but so we could call this, if you wanted to, we could call it like 4 going to 5, right? But bass steps up, everything moves in the opposite direction, bass step. This helps us avoid parallel fifths and parallel octaves, right? And yeah, okay. I just point out a couple other kind of weird things, interesting things. So we've got the no thirds, right? And we have the spacing problems right there and right there as well. We have cross voicing right there, right? Spacing, and spacing is right there as well. And if you start questioning your education, going like, why do they tell us these rules if it keeps getting broken? I think of it like saying, these are the principles of how most of the writing goes, and if there's a good reason to not, it's not a moral crime if the music says, it's an imperative. This is a literary device, actually. Main characters often break social rules or even the law if the higher law is being served. And in this case, he's breaking spacing rules and chord, completeness rules and even cross voicing rules and things like that, because there's a higher thing, which is the overall sound in the piece that he thinks is good, and that's great. Okay. Let's see. I think there's one other funny place that I think is really rare. This is getting into more of the rules for free writing, but I want to talk about hear this. And again, we're not doing too much here, but this is kind of unique and sticks out. The B flat chord right here, right? And this here is a C minor 7 chord, right? It's my 2, 5, 1. It's 2, 6, 5, because the 7th is right there. And if you look here, this neighbor tone right there, right? Because it's a neighbor that goes down and comes up, that creates a perfect fifth with the D right there, and that D too, right? And whenever you have a perfect fifth, whether it's from the chord or from a non-chord tone or something like that, you should always check its resolution. And look what happens here. We get E flat, like that. That's a perfect fifth as well. And for that matter, that's fine. It's okay. It's okay. So we went from a 7th to there. But there, we have a perfect fifth and a perfect fifth. When we play these two things together, right, we have the D and the B flat, and it comes down, and then they both go up. It's very uncharacteristic for this style of music. These are parallel perfect fifths that the oboe trumpet line has created. I think you'll hear those. I haven't found anything when I looked on the internet about, why this is this way. Is it something that somebody wrote something about, maybe behind a paywall or in somebody's dissertation somewhere? There's something mentioned about it. If it were me and I were writing this and I found this afterwards, like I wrote my lines and I liked it all and I found this afterwards, I would probably say, and just let it be. It sticks out a little bit, but the colors are very different. The ranges, are different. It happens very briefly, and you might not hear this as a big connected line. You might hear this as just a dip in the same unison that's happening there. It's just kind of funny, okay? So, again, learn the rules. Do well on your tests. Be able to craft things without errors per se, but then if you find a musical reason to break some of these rules, go against their counsel at least, I say it's good. All right, that's this video. Next video we will do so we've dealt with some hardcore things in terms of part writing and things like that, error finding. And now I'll make another video where we just do all the typical stuff with the chords and things. There's a really cool sequence right here that we get to talk about as well. And there'll be some voice leading stuff in there as well. Okay.